We had a couple of big playoff rematches, one in the East, one in the West. The defending champs scratch out another win. We had a hat trick, a couple of shutouts, and a finish out West you won't believe. All that and more on this edition of Locked On NHL Game Night.
When that final horn sounds, you know it's time for Locked On NHL Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. Prepare to experience game day reactions like never before. Only on Locked On NHL Game Night. Your team every day.
Hey, hockey fans, welcome to Locked On NHL Game Night, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your teams every day. Thanks for making Locked On NHL Game Night your place to get a recap of the night in the NHL during the regular season and the playoffs. We are here all season long, and we're available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. I'm Eddie Garcia, an LA Kings fan on the West Coast. He is Shukri Wrights, a Boston Bruins fan on the East Coast. Together, we're here to tell you about all the goals, saves, big moments, and stories from one of the busiest nights of the young NHL season. A big assist from our Locked On local experts as well. Shu, great to be back with you for another season. We've got 14 games to recap, 19 teams making their season openers. Are you ready to get to this?
Welcome back to hockey season, and I am fired up for this episode. As you mentioned, 14 games, so a lot to get into, a lot to dissect, and let's get right into it because we've had quite a few juices around the NHL tonight.
And our first group of games will feature matchups of teams who all made the playoffs a year ago, and we start with a couple of playoff rematches. One in the East, that was the Devils playing at the Hurricanes, season opener for both squads. Two Metro Division rivals, a rematch of last year's first-round playoff matchup, won by Carolina in 5 games. This was a good game until late, but again, the Hurricanes prevail in this one. 4 third-period goals to pull away for a 4-3 win. Let's check in with one of our local experts leading us off. It is the host of Locked On Carolina Hurricanes, Zach Martin.
And just like that, the Carolina Hurricanes are 1-0 on the season, winning their home opener 6-3. 2 goals by Seth Jarvis, 2 goals by Keandre Miller. Alexander Nikishin gets his first NHL point in his debut. What an absolute night for the Canes. It was just a back and forth affair as both teams were just trading goals back and forth, but in the end, the Carolina Hurricanes gets a couple empty netters, finds a way to get the job done, and now they're 1-0 to start the season. These two teams are going to be battling it out all year for the division title, but the first one goes to the Canes, and now they get ready to take on the Philadelphia Flyers on Saturday before they go on their 2-week road trip. But what a night for the Canes, 6-3, first game of the season, make that 1-0 for the 2025-26 Canes.
And Carolina, one of the best home teams in the NHL a year ago, they get the season opening home victory. A lot of high expectations on Carolina this year, Shu. A lot of people think they are the team that could have legitimate Stanley Cup aspirations this year. They made some nice additions. Nikolai Ehlers, Keandre Miller, a couple of goals in his debut for the Canes tonight. If the goaltending can hold up, this might be the year for Rod Brind'Amour and the Canes.
I agree. In terms of if the goaltending holds up, that this could potentially be the year. You know, as they say, first impressions are everything. It certainly was tonight for the Carolina Hurricanes, in which that I really like what I saw from Seth Jarvis. I mean, it doesn't surprise me they put the puck in the back of the net, but what did impress me more than anything was the fact that in the various ways that he scored. What also impressed me is Sebastian Aho being the playmaker that he was also in this game. And then when you talk about key critical moments in this game, I think one of them being with that Eric Robinson scoring with 13 seconds left as he finished a give and go with Taylor Hall to put the finishing touches. So for me, you talk about a team that has high expectations, and one of the big signings from the offseason was the signing of Keandre Miller, and the fact that he scored 2 goals in this game in front of the home crowd to give the crowd a first strong impression as a Hurricane, I liked it. And as well as, in conclusion, Frederik Andersen doing what he does best, playing like he's one of the best goaltenders in the league, and a strong start at home for the Carolina Hurricanes.
New Jersey should be a playoff team again. If they can just stay healthy, they'll be there, I believe. Jack Hughes obviously is back. He did have an assist in this game. He has to stay healthy. He wasn't there for the playoff matchup against the Canes last year, and they really didn't have a chance without him. So if New Jersey can stay healthy, I think they're definitely going to be a playoff team. They'll be in the mix there in the division as well. But Carolina looking good, closing things out strong in that big division matchup against New Jersey. Another playoff rematch from a year ago. We had the Stars at the Jets, season opener for both teams, two Central Division rivals. They met in the playoffs last year, of course, in the second round. Dallas won it in 6 games, and the Stars pulled this one out as well, holding on for a 5-4 win. Let's check in and get a report on this one from our local expert, the host of Locked On Dallas Stars, and that would be Joey Erickson.
Just able to stave off what would have been a collapse of epic proportion in Winnipeg as they hang on for a 5-4 victory over the Jets. The Stars led 5-1 at one point in the third period. It came crashing down as the Jets scored 2 shorthanded goals. They made it 5-4. Kyle Connor scored a hat trick in this game. The Stars also had to kill off a penalty in the final 5 minutes. But that being said, the first 50 minutes were exactly what Stars fans wanted to see from the Dallas Stars and Glenn Gulutzan as they begin this new era. They bullied the Jets for 50 minutes, and they put it on them early. They got a couple power play goals, and they just got the one that was huge, and they were able to close it out. It wasn't pretty by any stretch of the imagination, but a win is a win, especially against a division opponent on the road where the Jets are almost unbeatable. But my goodness, they gave Stars fans everywhere hard attack.
All right, Joey Erickson checking in with that report. Yes, very entertaining game. Looked like the Stars are going to run away with it. Winnipeg put up a valiant late comeback, but not enough. Mikko Rantanen, a goal and 2 assists. Obviously, the Stars have him now for a full season. Jake Ottinger, 21 saves in net. A nice goalie matchup in this one, but a lot of goals scored with this nice goalie matchup. And he mentioned Glenn Gulutzan, now the head coach in Dallas for a second year now, his second stint. This was a successful team. Now they've got this head coach who didn't have a lot of success in his first go-round in Dallas. Be real interesting to see what stamp he puts on this very, very good team, a Dallas Stars team that should be there when it's all said and done as one of the top teams in the West.
In terms of Glenn Gulutzan, sometimes you have to go through failure the first time in order to become wiser and better the second time around. And I think that will be the case for Glenn Gulutzan. I think he has an even more talented Dallas roster than he did during his first stint as the Stars head coach. But I will say this, though. The thing that stood out to me in this game was Kyle Connor, who was fresh off the 8-year, $96 million contract extension that he signed with the Winnipeg Jets, a hat trick in the opening game at home. I mean, you want to talk about immediately paying dividends. Obviously, you know what his credentials are as an offensive talent, elite one at that in the NHL. But I would say that for Kyle Connor, one of the things that stood out to me in this game was that you saw how he was able to impact the game on the rush and so forth. But not to be outdone, Mikko Rantanen, and watching him in this opening game, in his first full season as a Star, I mean, this is just going to be a prelude of what's to come for Rantanen with the Dallas Star. But also not to be forgotten, Jonathan Toews, his first game in the NHL since April 13, 2023. So I thought he looked really solid in this game. He played 18 minutes and 19 seconds of total ice time in his debut for the Winnipeg Jets. So it was a lot to really like from both sides. But, man, you talk about an interesting development for the Dallas Stars under the return of Glenn Gulutzan. I like what I saw in terms of the early impressions from the Stars in this game.
By the way, it was free beanie night in Winnipeg, and they all got thrown on the ice for Kyle Connor's hat trick. So I guess that was perfect timing as that. Yeah, a lot of the free beanies got tossed on the ice. We had the Tampa Bay Lightning. A lot of people are picking them to win the Stanley Cup this year, hosting the Ottawa Senators. So another matchup of two teams that made the playoffs last year. High hopes, as I mentioned, for the Lightning, but didn't help them in this one as the Senators go on the road and get a big 5-4 victory. Let's check in with one of our local experts, the host of Locked On Senators, one of the co-hosts of Locked On Senators. He is Brandon Pillar.
Senators find a way to weather the storm and get the 5-4 win over the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'm Brandon Pillar from the Locked On Senators podcast, and despite being down 2-0 early, despite allowing 2 power play goals from the Tampa Bay Lightning on 3 attempts, the Sens win 5-4 thanks to Shane Pinto getting 3 points, Brady Tkachuk getting 3 points, and an unlikely offensive producer, Artem Zub, also getting 3 points. We'll break down how the Ottawa Senators were able to get their first win of the season on tomorrow's episode of the Locked On Senators podcast.
So maybe an early statement win for the Ottawa Senators going on the road, picking up that victory, as I mentioned, over a team that a lot of people think is a serious Stanley Cup contender this season in Tampa Bay.
Certainly. And also, you got to think about what Ottawa was able to do last season, in terms of getting to the playoffs, 1, 2, that incredible series against the Toronto Maple Leafs as well. And for them to get up to the start that they got off to on the road, no less, against the Tampa Bay Lightning, impressive. Shane Pinto scoring twice in this game, including the go-ahead goal. He had about a minute and 47 seconds remaining. I thought that for a guy who was going to be a vital piece of the Senators' core moving forward, he had a huge night in this game. But then also, what I find to be interesting is Nikita Kucherov. He did exactly what Kucherov has always done: score points at an elite level, and he scored twice in this game. And as well as Brayton Point, not to be forgotten. But man, you talk about the Lightning unable to hold on to a 2-goal lead. I thought that was a little disappointing, but I do think that Ottawa showing grit on the road, no less, this early on is a positive sign for a Senators team that's going to be looking to take steps forward this season.
All right, we're just getting started. We've got a Central Division matchup of former playoff teams from last year to talk about, and the defending champs scratching out another win in Vegas with a wild finish in San Jose. All that coming up next on Locked On NHL Game Night. NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet: player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It is quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to your Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, Shu, we got another matchup of teams that made the playoffs a year ago. Central Division matchups. Blues hosting the Wild, season opener for both teams, and Minnesota with a pretty dominant 5-0 shutout win behind goaltender Philip Gustafsson. Let us get a report on this one from the host of Locked On Minnesota Wild. He is Seth Topal.
Who loves the Blues more, Ryan Hartman or Philip Gustafsson? Both came up big as the Wild get a shutout on opening night. Hey, everybody, Seth Topal, host of Locked On Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast, recapping a 5-0 win for the Minnesota Wild to start the season on the road against the Blues. The Wild got the scoring started courtesy of Ryan Hartman, his first of the season. He added another goal late in the game. Matt Boldy scored. Joel Eriksson Ek added a power play goal. Marco Rossi capped the scoring in the third. And Philip Gustafsson started his season fresh off a new contract with a shutout win over the Blues. The Wild won the special teams battle for the first time in what seems like forever. Lots to like in their opening night win. For more on this game as well as the start of the season for the Minnesota Wild, make sure you follow Locked On Wild wherever you listen to your podcasts.
And we thank Seth Topal for that report. Impressive for Philip Gustafsson with that save. And he talked about new contract. Kirill Kaprizov, the new highest paid player in the NHL, 3 assists in this pretty dominant 5-0 shutout win for the Wild as well.
Absolutely. And I want you to follow along for a moment, Eddie, as it's part of a trend I was talking about from the first segment. Guys who had just signed contract extensions already paying dividends, that should shock absolutely nobody. Kirill Kaprizov is on that list. I talked about Kyle Connor in the previous segment. Kaprizov in situation 3 points, all assists in this game, in which that he just signed an 8-year, $136 million contract, which begins next season, and he already has 3 points off the rip already. But then also, what I find to be interesting as well is the fact that Philip Gustafson, if you remember going back to training camp, he had talked about the importance of wanting to start well and how important that it was going to be for the Wild to start well, especially on the road against St. Louis, and the fact that they have a home game, the home opener on Saturday against the Columbus Blue Jackets. They felt that it was imperative to get this win on the road, which they did. But I also do think that the Blues, special teams, it did them in tonight. Make no mistake about it. And that was certainly the biggest difference, along with the battle in front of the net. So I do think that the Wild certainly started off the season on the right foot. Meanwhile, for the St. Louis Blues, they kind of shot themselves in the foot in terms of the special teams and as well as the battle in front of the net, which cost them dearly.
All right, up next, we've got the Red Wings hosting the Canadiens season opener and home opener for Detroit. Montreal looking to bounce back from their season opening loss to Toronto. This one, all Montreal, a team that a lot of people are very excited about, a young up-and-coming team. They rolled to a 5-1 win, a very rough debut for new Red Wings goalie John Gibson. We'll get into that in a minute. But we'll talk about the winning side and check in with one of our local experts, one of the co-hosts of Locked On Montreal Canadiens. It is Laura Saba.
Jakub Dobish standing tall in a big win for the Montreal Canadiens. Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Saba. I'm from the Locked On Canadiens podcast. Here's our quick takeaway from that game against Detroit. This was one the Habs really needed to win. They need to win all these 4-point games against teams like Detroit, Ottawa, maybe Buffalo as well, teams that'll be the Bruins, teams that'll be on their heels all the way through to April. And the Canadiens drew first blood in the series against Detroit, in the season series against Detroit. Jakub Dobish also standing tall, a great game from him, especially on the second night of a back-to-back. The Habs are going to need to rely on him all season long for this kind of thing because there are a lot of back-to-back games with that compressed schedule, and he's proven himself to be a wonderful backup, a great option to give the Canadiens confidence. Oliver Kapanen and Zach Balduc with 2 goals in as many games. This is a fantastic turnaround, a fantastic response after that loss in Toronto. Canadiens did not get demoralized. They might have been outplayed at points by the Detroit Red Wings just due to sheer tiredness. But this game is one where the Canadiens really were able to, like the cliche says, good teams will find a way to win it. And today, the ways to win it, there were so many of them. Alex Carrier had a goal, but really it starts from the net out. So Jakub Dobish really propelling the team to that 5-1 victory. For more on this game and every game of the season, please check out Locked On Canadiens. We're available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. We're available 5 days a week, talking all about your Habs.
All right, thanks to Laura Saba for that report. Montreal only 17 shots on goal, but that was plenty against new Red Wings goalie John Gibson. In his debut as a Red Wing, he allowed 5 goals on 13 shots. That is a .615 save percentage before he got pulled. That was not the way he hoped his first game in a Wings uniform would go. But as she mentioned, Jakub Dobish, a great number 2 goalie for Montreal, 1 goal allowed on 31 shots. It was about goaltending in this one.
It certainly was, and it was about the quality of goaltending. But then also, I also want to point out something you talked about was in terms of like the amount of shots that that was faced by John Gibson. It wasn't just the fact that he faced 13 shots; it was the quality of opportunity that the Montreal Canadiens had. And I thought that in terms of for Montreal in particular, it wasn't just the goal scoring, but it was the opportunities that was set up, whether it was Brendan Gallagher or Nick Suzuki or Alex Newhook. And I thought that for Montreal, the thing that impressed me was their ability to set up the scoring opportunity, something that I think that is going to make this Montreal Canadiens team even more dangerous, obviously, as the season moves along. But in terms of their way to be able to bounce back after that disappointing loss that they had against the Toronto Maple Leafs, I thought this was a great bounce back win for Montreal. And in conclusion, I do think that Detroit, they're certainly going to have their work cut out in terms of in terms of bouncing back from this game, and then as well as making sure that they're able to have like secondary scoring as well.
All right, and we have the Panthers hosting the Flyers season opener for Philadelphia. Florida looking to move to 2-0 after opening their season with a win over Chicago. And the defending champs get a third period game-winning goal from Brad Marchand, pull out a 2-1 win to stay perfect on the season. Let's get a report from our local expert, the host of Locked On Florida Panthers. It is Armando Velez.
Second game into the season, and it's another third period goal that made the difference for the Panthers. What is up, guys? Armando Velez here from the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, here to quickly break down the Panthers' 2-1 win over the Philadelphia Flyers in game number 2 of the season. And just like in game 1, the Florida Panthers were able to tilt the ice in their direction at the start of the game, had the Philadelphia Flyers out of position, 4 power play opportunities in the first 25 for the Panthers. It was Anton Lundell getting the first score of the game on the power play. Power play 2 came through again. A fluke goal by the Philadelphia Flyers late in the second period off a draw that Sergei Bobrovsky wasn't able to handle. The Panthers went into the third tied up, and it was Brad Marchand off a partial change, and a smart play from the half wall got it over the shoulder of Dan Vladar, and the Panthers came out victorious once again. For more on this game, make sure to check out our recap on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Your team every day.
All right, thanks to Armando Velez for that report. And 2 wins for the Panthers. We know they don't have Matthew Tkachuk for most of the year. Alexander Barkov is out until at least the playoffs, if back at all. They've clawed out 2 wins over teams that we think are lesser teams in Chicago and Philadelphia. I think it's kind of an indication that it may be a bit of a struggle this year. I think Florida's still a good team. They've got a lot of parts that are very, very good. But I don't know that they're going to blow out a lot of teams this year. They're going to have to, pardon the pun, scratch and claw for a lot of their wins this year.
And that's not a bad thing because Eddie, if you remember going back to last spring, like this was their style. Like they were a team that was going to blow you out the water offensively, even though they obviously have the capabilities of scoring goals, but they're comfortable playing a 1-0 game or a 2-1 game or a 3-2 game. And tonight was a prime example of exactly that. They were comfortable in terms of their forechecking, and they were comfortable like dumping pucks in and so forth. And I think that it was really noticeable. It's really noticeable when the Flyers head coach, the newly hired Rick Tocchet, talked about a post game where he said that there was pockets of good stuff that the Flyers did. Like they were in fact a good measuring stick. But the reality is, when you're facing a team that believes in its system so much that no matter how the game is going, they don't deviate from the plan. And that's exactly what you saw. But I thought that the Flyers got a pretty good goaltending performance on Dan Vladar, who made 32 saves in this game. But I do think that a couple of defensive breakdowns by the Flyers in their own end is what ultimately did them in.
You talked about it, Rick Tocchet losing in his Philadelphia debut. We still got plenty more to get to, including a wild finish in San Jose. We'll do that next year on Locked On NHL Game Night. Let's get right back into it. A Rocky Mountain rivalry as the Avalanche were hosting the Mammoth home opener for Colorado, looking to go to 2-0 after winning on opening night in LA, while it was the season opener for the Mammoth. This one saw Colorado hold on for a 2-1 win to improve to 2-0 on the season. Let's check in with our local expert, the host of Locked On Colorado Avalanche, Chris Maselli.
The Colorado Avalanche get a win in their home opener, and they start the year 2-0, but this one was not easy. They beat the Utah Mammoth 2-1 and give a lot of credit to Utah for making it pretty difficult for the Avalanche to really get anything going offensively. But the Avalanche are able to get 2 goals, and that was enough. Why? Because the story of this game, by far, was Avs goalie, backup goalie, no less, who is in the starting role right now because Mackenzie Blackwood is out for a few games. Scott Wedgwood won this game hands down for the Colorado Avalanche. If not for him, this could have been a blowout in favor of Utah. He made massive save after massive save all game long. He was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So the Avs get the home win, their home opener win. And opposed to last year where they lost their first 4 games in bad fashion, the Avs are turning it around, at least for the beginning of this season, and have won the first 2 games. But the big one is Saturday when former friend Mikko Rantanen and the Dallas Stars come to town, everyone's attention is already turning to that one. But the Avs do get the win. And again, credit Utah. They got some fight in them. They're going to be a fun team to watch this year as well. But Scott Wedgwood cannot say enough about his performance to get the Avs this 2-1 win.
And thanks to Chris Maselli for that report. I think he pretty much covered it very well. Nathan McKinnon, by the way, did get his first goal of the season in that win for Colorado. Any thoughts on the Avs 2-0 now to start the season?
Yeah, like one quick thought I do have is I thought the thing that impressed me in terms of Colorado was the fact that they were comfortable playing in this tight game. And you talk about like the big goal that was scored by Nathan McKinnon. I thought that like in terms of like what McKinnon does best, and that is, you know, like finding the soft spots on the ice and be able to score. And I just think that this was again a pretty good indicator as to how good this Colorado team is and why they are a top 5 legitimate favorite to win the cup. Quality goaltending. Scott Wedgwood was absolutely spectacular tonight, making 32 saves for the Avs. So I think that tonight's win was a combination of both timely goals, but as well as strong goaltending from Scott Wedgwood as well.
Well, you talk about good goaltending as we switch to the Sharks hosting the Golden Knights. Vegas looking to bounce back from a loss in their home opener to LA. San Jose, this is their home opener, their season opener, and they were outplaying Vegas, at least on the scoreboard for most of the game. But a bad bounce goes into the net as Jack Eichel scores late to tie it. And then in overtime, an empty net goal scored in this one on Alex Nedeljkovic of San Jose as he came way out of the net to play the puck, and he messed it up, and Vegas scored into an empty net. Riley Smith ends the game. Let's check in with one of our hosts of Locked On Vegas Golden Knights for a reaction to this wild one.
I have no idea what I just watched. The Golden Knights defeated the San Jose Sharks off of a Jack Eichel half-court shot to send the game to overtime. And then Riley Smith gets a tap in with a goaltender 40 feet away from him in overtime. Sports are unexplainable sometimes, folks. I don't know what to tell you. Chris Kollick, Locked On Vegas Golden Knights here. Please check out the Locked On Vegas Golden Knights podcast Monday through Friday, anywhere you catch your podcast, and on YouTube. I still don't know what just happened. Your team every day.
Yeah, 4-3 overtime. Vegas gets the win. Alex Nedeljkovic didn't have a terrible game until the very end, and it's just sometimes you watch enough hockey, you see some things that you can't explain, and that's a tough loss for the Sharks looking to start a season. We don't expect much from them. They were poised to win that game, and then somehow Vegas pulls it out. I guess good teams find ways to win.
I mean, yes, absolutely. And I laugh because, number one, the report literally told us everything that we needed to know about just the sheer shock of what happened at the end of this Vegas San Jose game. Number two, it may be different, but similar in terms of the surprise factor. Remember last spring during the playoffs between Vegas and Edmonton? That one game that ended literally on a goaltending gaffe, and it just kind of gave the similar type of feel like in terms of in that regard. But as far as the Vegas Golden Knights, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. They're obviously a great team, but in this case, man, I feel for the Sharks. So that's a tough go there, eh?
Yes, very tough for a team that probably isn't going to have many wins this year to have one against a really good team in your home opener and you let it slip away. That's a tough one for sure. Let's wrap up our final group of games. We had the Sabres hosting the Rangers. This one saw the Rangers lead for most of the game 1-0 before they pull away late for a 4-0 shutout win. Igor Shesterkin, 37 saves in net to get the victory. And the Rangers get their first win under new head coach Mike Sullivan.
Oh, critical. You talk about Igor Shesterkin, bouncing back after bouncing back after the season that it was last year. But also, Mike Sullivan, congratulations on him getting his first win as the head coach of the New York Rangers. That is a huge deal. But then also, I would definitely say that JT Miller, on him getting the start that he's off to, like especially in this game, was critical. And I thought that for the Rangers to bounce back in the way that they did tonight against the Sabres was something that the Rangers certainly going to need moving forward.
And Alexis Lafreniere with the goal that was the 1-0 lead for most of the game, and then they able to add a couple of goals late and pull away from it. As for Sabres fans, let's go Bills, I guess, at this point. Penguins hosting the Islanders. Pittsburgh looking to go to 2-0 on the season. Islanders with their season opener. Pittsburgh in their new gold jerseys, their new third gold jerseys. And they get a couple of nice performances from a few of their legends in a 4-3 victory. Sidney Crosby gets his first goal of the year. Evgeny Malkin had 3 assists. And Tristan Jarry, 34 saves in net for Pittsburgh in the win. For the Islanders, their number 1 overall pick, defenseman Matthew Schaefer, 18 years old. He gets an assist on their first goal of the season. Youngest defenseman in NHL history to get a point in his NHL debut. I don't know if either of these teams are going anywhere, but Pittsburgh, hey, they're off to a 2-0 start. Who knows? Maybe they can surprise this year.
Man, maybe. But, I think them turning the clock back a little bit tonight was pretty spectacular, especially because when Malkin and Crosby combining for 5 points in this game. I mean, you're going to need a lot more of that this season if the Penguins are going to contend. But obviously, it's a long season. We'll have to wait and see how it all goes. But however, I do think that in terms of the offensive side of things, I thought that was huge. And of course, Rickard Rakell, chipping in with a goal and assist as well. But then just lastly, real quick, that was special tonight for Matthew Schaefer. That was his NHL debut that he played in tonight, and for his family and friends to be there to witness it all was pretty spectacular as well.
Your Bruins were hosting the Blackhawks, home opener for Boston, original 6 matchup. Both teams playing their second games of the season. Hawks had a tough loss against the Panthers on opening night. Bruins coming off a win in DC. And Boston gets the 4-3 overtime victory in this one. 21-year-old Fraser Minton came over from Toronto in a trade for Brandon Carlo, gets the overtime game winner. Jonas Korpisalo stops Connor Bedard in overtime on a clean breakaway to uphold the victory and set the stage for Minton to get that win. Boston now 2-0 under new head coach Marco Sturm.
It was a pretty good win tonight for the Bruins, for a team that, by and large part, not many people have high expectations for. But I will say that in regards to tonight's win for the Bruins, is that I think that seeing Fraser Minton, scoring the OT winning goal was critical. But for me, it's the play of Elias Lindholm going back to the opening game for the Bruins against the Capitals that has caught my eye. Lindholm did have a disappointing season last season, but this year so far, he is off to a pretty great start offensively. And I think that you're going to need Elias Lindholm, that is, to continue on this path, and as well as to get contributions from the lineup from guys like Casey Middlestad and Tanner Jeannot as well, who was a free agent signing, by the way.
I mentioned Connor Bedard was stopped in the overtime. He did get his first goal of the year, and it was another gritty game for the Hawks. They've got 2 tough losses, 2 one-goal losses on the season, both on the road. Unfortunately for them, 0-6 so far on the power play this season. But again, Chicago so far through 2 games they've been very competitive, but unfortunately for them, nothing to show for it. We had the Predators hosting the Blue Jackets, season opening game for both teams. 2 teams hoping to get back in the playoff picture. Columbus just fell short a year ago, and of course, Nashville, one of the bigger disappointments a season ago. Predators pull out a 2-1 win thanks to UC Saros, 37 saves in net, and Ryan O'Reilly gets a power play goal, the only goal in the third period, to snap that 1-1 tie. Nashville getting the victory to open the season.
I remember when we were talking about the Predators, and we were covering the Predators in the season in review and season preview episode during the summer, and I asked the question about UC Saros, how critical his bounce back was going to be for the success of the Predators this season, tonight was exactly the example of what the Predators need. UC Soros needs to have a monster bounce back season. And he had a bounce back performance tonight in which that listen, 37 saves. And I thought that he was absolutely terrific. But also, you want to know who else was terrific? Ryan O'Reilly. And I thought that he really had his fingerprints all over this game, both in terms of the offense, but especially defensively as well on his own end.
Canucks hosting the Flames in a rivalry matchup north of the border. Vancouver's season and home opener. Calgary coming off a big comeback win against the Oilers. No comeback this time. Vancouver skates off with a convincing 5-1 win as Adam Foote wins his Vancouver and his NHL head coaching debut. Philip Hedl had 2 goals for the Canucks. Thatcher Demko only had to make 17 saves in net to get the victory.
Like Philip Hedl has settled nicely with the Vancouver Canucks. He had the 2 goals in his game, and congratulations to Adam Foote, who won his NHL coaching debut with the Vancouver Canucks as well. But also, Thatcher Demko was not challenged for most of the night. He made 17 saves on 18 shots. But that's a good thing because in front, I thought the Vancouver Canucks defended very well. However, Dustin Wolf, he was certainly very busy in this one. He started back-to-back games for the first time with the Calgary Flames. So I do wonder if there was a little bit of a fatigue factor, but the Vancouver Canucks off to a good start so far.
And our final game, the Kraken hosting the Ducks, season opener for both. A lot of optimism in Anaheim, but not on this night as Seattle gets the 3-1 win. Mason Marchman in his first game with the Kraken gets the game-winning goal. Joey Decorte allowed just 1 goal on 36 shots. Joel Quenneville back in the NHL coaching the Ducks, losing in his Anaheim debut. The lone bright spot for the Ducks, rookie Beckett Seneca, first NHL goal in his first NHL game.
Welcome back to the NHL, Joel Quenneville, despite the fact that it was in a loss column. But in terms of the Seattle Kraken, I thought that one of the things that they needed to see more this season, at least to start, was Jared McCann, Vince Dunn being more of a factor. And they both had a goal for the Kraken in the season opening game. And I thought that was critical. They had quality goaltending for Joey Decorte. He had 35 saves in this one. So I do think that that Seattle, if they're going to contend this year, they certainly going to need Joey Decorte to step up, but they definitely are going to need a lot of the key pieces that are already in place to step up and perform at a high level as well.
All right, if you want complete coverage of your favorite NHL team, there is a Locked On NHL Team podcast and YouTube show for you because every team has one. This show, Locked On NHL Game Night, is here for you each and every night, except this Friday because there's no games in the NHL. Why? We don't know, but Shu and I will be back on Saturday when we have 16 games to try and recap. So rest up for that. We need a rest day for that. That'll do it for this episode of Locked On NHL Game Night. For Shukri Wrights, I'm Eddie Garcia. Thanks for listening and watching Locked On NHL Game Night, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day.